Sex Theory. I'm excited to have you guys here today for another fantastic episode.
That's right.
Last week, we talked about our first jobs that we ever had, and those were fun. But today, if you missed it, by the way, go check it out. Today, we're going to talk about something else.
What?
I want to share with you guys a passion of mine. Something that has been... I got bit by a bug.
Oh my.
Or rather, stung by a bee. So, when I was probably, I don't know, 15 or 16 years old, I went to Oregon and I spent the summer with my grandpa. And I spent the summer there and I helped him because he's always done beekeeping for years. And over the course of the summer, I helped him tend his beehives. I helped him catch swarms of bees, and that was really fun. And I learned all about this beekeeping thing, and I was like, man, this is like really cool. This is really fun. I remember like just falling in love with beekeeping and wanting to have my own beehive. And I came back home, and my brother Matthew, who's a couple years younger than me, he also got excited and interested in beekeeping. And he actually, for some reason in my mind, I remember him taking the initiative to actually get a beehive. And I kind of like helped a little bit. But my grandpa came to visit us for like a couple days or a week. Maybe he was here for a month. I don't remember. But I remember him coming to visit, and he helped us to acquire our first beehive. And it was like this box that was already established of bees. And we got it from a local beekeeper guy. I don't know how my grandpa found him or anything. All I know is that we put the bees on our back porch, and it was like heaven. It was like the most exciting project I'd ever worked on in my entire life up to this point. And the bees were working, and my brother Matthew, he had a bee suit. And I think when my grandpa came, he helped me to get a bee suit too. And so me and Matthew, we were able to take care of the bees together, and we'd open up the bee box and we'd look at all the frames and we'd see the bees all buzzing around, and we'd try to find the queen. And my grandpa gave me a couple of books. He gave me a book called The Art and Adventure of Beekeeping. And then he gave me another book called How to Keep Bees and Sell Honey. They're both old books, like from the mid 1900s, like
wow.
Old. But I read both of them, and I learned so much reading those books that I just like fell in love. And ever since then, I've never lost my love and my passion for beekeeping. Like, it's always been something that I just cherish. And every year I want bees and I want to take care of them. Like, even right now, I'm kind of like, man, it's springtime. I haven't ordered my bees yet this year. Like, I need to go get some more bees. Just because it's so fun. And anyway, that's how I got started in beekeeping.
That's cool. I
was
like that.
Spending the summer with my grandpa. And I can tell you some stories.
What?
So we kept the bees on our back porch, and we had an acre, so we had some space, but the bees were like facing the backyard, and anytime kids would run past or whatever, the bees were in the flight path. And so I was like, how can I make it so that the bees are not going to sting people as they're just playing outside? And so in one of the books that I'd read, he had tied up like these flags in front of the beehive that were kind of like waving, and that constant movement got the bees comfortable with movement, so that if people walked by, it wouldn't upset the bees, because it was normal to see movement in the ways of the bees, where the bees fly. And so I hung up a couple of little flags. And I remember one time I was standing really, really, really close to the bees, and I was just kind of watching them as they're flying in and out of their house. And I got a little bit overconfident, I guess. And one of the bees wasn't very happy with me. And so it stung me right on the neck. I think I got 2 different stings right on my neck. And it swelled up really big, and it hurt really bad. Another time I got stung on my eyelid.
Was this when
I'll tell you that story later.
Oh, okay.
But I got stung on my neck really, really bad, and it hurt and it itched. But I remember, I can't remember where I was going with this story.
You're trying to get the flight path
Right.
so that kids wouldn't get stung, and then you got overly confident and got stung.
Every time I've ever been stung, it's always from getting overly confident.
Mhm.
Like I try to do
They're
something
my
I
best
shouldn't
friends
do.
now. It's like they don't even have stingers. Ouch! They still have stingers.
Right. So I made an agreement with my mom that she would pay for all the beekeeping equipment that I wanted. And in exchange, I would give her honey. And we established a value to the honey. I think it was like $5 a pound.
Which is pretty great.
That's really low. And so for every pound of honey that I made, I would give it to her. And then it would take $5 off of the debt that I owed for all the beekeeping equipment that she had purchased. So I bought like...
Pretty good deal, I'd say.
It was
for
a great
her.
deal. It was a great deal for her and for me.
Okay,
Like,
good.
because I was able to get 10 beehives and it didn't come out of my pocket. It came out of hers. I probably spent like maybe $1,000 on all this beekeeping equipment. And then the cool thing was in the summertime in Florida, or all the year basically is all summertime. So the bees were producing honey all year round. And as
That's amazing.
one day they were just in this one box, and one day we came home, and we noticed that they were swarming. The bees were leaving the box, and we're like, "What's going on? The bees are leaving."
Because it looks terrifying. When you see a swarm of bees, it's like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Like if you walked into the middle of that, you would die.
It does look terrifying. It's actually really cool. If you look at the entrance of the hive as they're swarming, it looks like water flowing out, but it's like fluid. It's just tens of thousands of bees all evacuating instantly. And then there's like this huge cloud of bees, like in Winnie the Pooh when he's getting chased by the swarm. Right? There's this huge cloud of bees, and they're all buzzing around at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and it's loud, and it's like, what's going on? And then if you watch it for long enough, all of a sudden the cloud of bees starts moving. It starts shifting, and you're like, wait, where's it going? It's going that way. And so you start following the cloud of bees, and then all of a sudden they start to swarm around this branch on a tree, and then you start to notice that they're landing on the branch, and that there's this little cluster of bees on the branch that gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it's this huge ball of bees on this branch.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, it's so crazy, and it's freaky, and it's scary, and it's exciting. And that first swarm of bees landed up on the branch, and we're like, it's like 30 feet high. How are we going to be able to get that swarm of bees? Because what happened was the beehive got too full, and so half of the bees left and the other half stayed. And so we're like, well, now we have a second hive. If we can get those bees down and put them in a box, now we have two beehives.
That's the tricky part.
But they were so high up we couldn't get them. So I was like, let's just keep an eye on them, and then maybe they'll swarm again and go somewhere else, because they're not just going to stay on that branch. And I think they stayed there for like 2 days.
Wow.
And then finally we came back one day and they were gone. It was sad. And we had another swarm, and we followed it.
Sometimes it's smart just to keep an empty bee box, so that
maybe they'll
bees
just
can
swarm into that box.
Because we've had that
We
happen
have
before.
had that happen.
That's pretty amazing when you're like, oh, here's my empty. It's not empty. There's honey. There's bees. It's so exciting when that happens.
I want to tell you the story about when I got stung on my eye. No. One day we had a swarm, and we followed the swarm, and we were watching it, and we were following it, and it went all the way across our yard, and then it went across the street, and it started heading into like this new subdivision. It was brand new homes. They hadn't even built any of the homes yet. It was like the model home was the only home there, and it had like this little scrawny tree in the front. And we followed the bee swarm all the way to this like model home. We were running along the street trying to follow it to see where it would land. And then as soon as we found out where it landed, we'd come home and grab a new bee box. So we followed it to where it landed, and we saw it land on this tiny little tree, maybe like 2 feet off the ground outside of this model home. And so we're like,
that's lucky. Considering
perfect!
how many trees are in Florida, the chances of that happening are like slim to none. So that's pretty amazing.
So we're like, great. Okay, we got it. Let's go get a box. We ran home. We got a box. We ran it over there. And then just like my grandpa taught me, we took this swarm and we were able to get it.
Of course, wearing pea suits.
Yes. We didn't want to get stung. We're not crazy people. So I had my bee suit on. We moved the bees into the box. We took the box home. And then I think after the bees were in the box in the backyard, we were done. Then I think I took off the bee suit and we went back to go talk to like the management of this new, home building neighborhood, just to let them know, hey, we got the bees out of your hair. If you ever have any swarms, let us know. We're here. So I went back there, but there was a couple of straggler bees that were left behind that we didn't get. And when I got back to the same area, one of them was angry and it came and stung me right in the eye.
Ouch. You're like, hey, I didn't get them all. I'm so sorry. And then they come out and I get stung a little bunch. Just kidding.
It swelled up. My whole eye was swollen shut like I'd just gotten a huge shiner. It was just like...
Oh, yeah. That happened another time when we were first dating, actually. I don't think we were married yet.
I got stung in the eye while we were dating?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
I forgot that.
Mm-hmm. It was either while we were dating. I think it was while we were dating. Anyway. But you talking about all your passions when you were a teenager makes me want to talk about mine.
What is yours?
So it started out in art class. So at first, I played the clarinet growing up until like 8th grade. So from like 4th grade till 8th grade for 4 years. And I got pretty good at it, but then I went to homeschool and I didn't want to do it anymore when I got to high school because I was behind all the other people that kept doing it while I was at homeschool. And I don't know, it was a good opportunity for me to get out of it. So I didn't do it. And then I got to high school and I started doing choir, which was really fun. And you could only get in, like there was only one kid who got in as a freshman. All the other people, the choir teacher was very particular and you could only get in when you were like a sophomore. Most people got in as a sophomore, and then if you were in as a sophomore, you kind of did it every year after that. And you didn't have to try out anymore, but we had to try out the first time. And all he did was play keys on the piano, and we had to try and match it.
Okay. And
that was the tryout or whatever. And I just matched it, and he was like, okay. And then later he's like, okay, you got in. And I was like, yeah, I got in.
Good job.
It was pretty good. I don't know if I could do that now. I'm like way off now. But at the time, I was pretty good. So that was one of the things that I really loved doing. But mostly the things that I really loved and what I ended up going to college for later was art. And
you are very good at art.
I love art. And I don't do very much of it right now, but I'll find something.
Making videos is art.
That's true.
At least that's what I tell myself, so I feel like I'm an artist.
So the biggest thing, well, actually I started taking pictures at home. Mom had a camera and I started taking pictures, and then I would show my mom the pictures and she was like, where is that at? And I was like, that's just outside. And she's like, I don't know where it's at still. And I was like, I'll show you. So I would like show her. I went down here and I took a picture right here, but I made it look like it was old fashioned or whatever, like the way that I would do it. And she's like, that looks like it's from the pioneer time. Like we had a house that was a pioneer house that was kind of falling apart across the street. And I like went down and I took a picture with like a plant in the front yard or whatever and that in the background. And it made it look like it was an old pioneer photo somehow. And I liked doing that, and I took a lot of pictures like that, and my mom was always like, she's so good at that naturally. She just does such a good job. I was like, thanks. But then I did like 2D art, and I did drawing, and I did painting, and I started to get pretty good at a few different things. I did ceramics my freshman year. I remember.
Are you going to talk about the phone book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's like, but what about this?
I just want to make sure, because you reminded me of that story, and then I'm like, well, maybe she's getting to that.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
But that reminds me of a funny story. And I remember in my freshman year, in my art class, my first like ceramics class, there was this one boy, and he kept flirting with me a lot, and he was a senior. And I was a freshman.
What does flirting with you a lot look like?
Like constantly following me around
baby,
and doing that type of thing.
Wow.
Just like, you're so cute. Oh man, you're adorable. Or stuff like that.
That's
and I was
true.
like,
you are.
oh, thanks. Yeah. But I don't know why that popped into my head. I guess just that memory with the classroom in my head. But my first year, I wasn't very confident.
So
oh, thanks. My first year, I wasn't very confident with like art stuff very much, but then I just kept doing it each year, and I got really good. And my first and I think only painting that I did, it was a painting of my front porch. I wish I had a picture of it. I actually ended up selling this painting later to my cousin, who bought it for like $300 or something.
Wow.
I think it was
didn't know that.
Maybe it was $100. I don't know. But
That's
I was
cool.
like, I put a pretty high price. I remember thinking, that's a high price for that painting, and she bought it.
For your first painting?
Yeah.
That you ever sold, $300.
I think so.
Hey.
It was either 100 or 300.
You need to get back into the painting business.
But it was cool because the process of doing it was like using a projector. You take a picture and you use a projector and you project that picture down on your canvas, and then you trace it out. So without doing it like that, I probably would not have done very well. I really felt like I was cheating, but it looked really good when I was done. And that's how the teacher taught us to do it. So we did a pretty good job.
Cool.
And there was a contest. It was like, enter this contest to see if you can get your painting on the front cover of the phone book. Like, that was the Sanpete County phone book or whatever. And so I was like, okay, my art teacher's like, you should do this. I think you could do really good. And I was like, okay. He was so good. Like, he was always encouraging me, you should join this contest. You should join this contest with all my artwork. Like, all the time. He's like, put it in. Just put it in. Trust me. This is a good idea. And I won a lot of things. I did a good job. And it was because he was, like, really encouraging and helpful. Oh, such a good teacher. Anyways, so yeah, I put it in, and then a little while later, I can't remember when, they were like, you won! And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, you get to have this on the front cover of the phone book. And I was like, wow! So they put it on the front cover of the phone book, and it got shipped out to everybody in Sanpete County, and that was my painting.
What year was that?
That was like...
Was that 2008 or 2007?
I don't know, actually.
Because when I first met your family, the first picture I ever saw of you was the picture of you inside that phone book.
Yeah, because it like had this little picture of me and a like description of the artist, and or whatever I was thinking about that painting or something like that. And it was pretty cool to have my painting in the front, and then to have my face on the phone book that says like who I am, why I did it. It's cool.
I wonder if that could be like worth something now that you're famous.
I'm sure lots of people have old phone books somewhere
of you and your art.
I wonder if we have one. I don't even think I have one.
You don't have one in like all your portfolio?
No, it makes me want to find it so that I can show you guys.
Yeah, it's a good picture.
Yeah, that's the first picture Michael ever saw of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, she's cute.
She's cute. Yeah, I'll go on a date with her, I guess.
And later you told me I looked better than my picture.
You do.
You're so sweet. And then another time, I just loved ceramics. I loved ceramics. Painting, I figured it out a little bit as I went, but it wasn't like my passion. I was more frustrated with it, and like I think if I gave it time and energy today, I would get much better, but it was like not fun to me at the time until it was done, and then I was like, okay, I like it now. But anyways, ceramics was what I really loved. I loved building things with clay, 3D. That was so much fun. I still love that nowadays. And the things I was the absolute best at was I was good at the wheel, so spinning pottery on the wheel and like, building it. That was really, really fun. And they say it takes like 60 to 100 times making pots before you're good at it. And then it's like riding a bike.
I think it took you only 6 to 10 times.
No, it took
Hey, you made some really good stuff.
So many times. But I did it for years before you saw me do it.
Oh, okay.
But then I also really, really loved building just from clay, not on the
So did you do
pot.
ceramics in high school?
Yeah.
And then
I
again
did
in
ceramics
college?
in high school, I think every year of high school. That's 4
I
years.
did not realize you took that many years of ceramics.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought that college was your first
I
experience
might have had
with ceramics.
1 year or 2 that I didn't do ceramics, but I know I did at least 2 years of ceramics
Okay,
before college.
cool.
And then I was like, I was inspired by somebody who was talking about how they made treats, like ice cream cones or something out of like clay, and made it try to look real. And I was like, I love that idea, because really the thing that I had struggled with up until that point was just finding something I actually wanted to make. Like, and because you put so much time and energy into one little thing, it made me like be a lot more picky than I would typically be, because I was like, I don't want to spend well, for me, another thing with playing the clarinet, like I had just picked that randomly, frivolously, that instrument to learn to play, and I figured out within like a month that I didn't like that instrument. And so that was really frustrating to me, to then play it for 4 more years and not actually like it that whole time. I liked it okay. The wrong instrument, it was enough, but not. It wasn't a passion. I did not like it enough to have it be a passion. And so when I went to choose what I wanted to make with ceramics, I was a lot more picky. And I decided I wanted to build a cake. Like Napoleon, no, like Pedro. And so I made cakes. And I started out, and they did not look very good.
You won awards with those cakes too, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Jeez, you're like awards.
I won
you're like,
multiple awards with those cakes.
You've got like, what's it called? Very decorated. I think that's what like a someone who's won a whole bunch of awards is called decorated.
I'm a very decorated artist.
You're a very decorated artist before I ever even met you.
Yeah.
No, you haven't won any awards. I guess you've won like the YouTube play button award.
Yeah, I mean that's like the ultimate award.
That's way cooler than the phone book.
But then I built some cakes, and I did everything I possibly could do to make them look real. And it got really interesting because all of the kids in the whole class would watch me make it. Like, I would basically build the form out of whatever shape the cake was going to be. So a very basic shape. And I didn't want it to just be round and make it look like a cake that hadn't been cut into. I wanted it to have like a slice cut out of it, and then have the slice separate from the cake. So it looked like I had literally cut a piece out, and it was like in the process of being about to be eaten. And then you could see the inside and see more detail. And anyways, I was really excited about that. So I started building like the forms of it, and I did a test run with one, and it is awful. And I think I still have it. It's really ugly. And I did not do a very good job. But from that, I learned how to do a much better job. And then it was cool because the way that I made them, like I could build out the form, the shape of the basic cake, and then the clay, you can add enough water to it to get it to the perfect consistency of frosting. And that's what I ended up doing, so that I literally was just frosting a cake, and it went really quickly, and it looked amazing, and it looked real, and it was just frosting a cake. I even used like the cake tip, like, and the bag and everything, just like frosting a cake, but it was totally fake.
It was all clay.
But when I did like the frosting part, I remember my teacher just sitting there like, like he was blown away by it. He loved it. Like he would invite people in and be like, "Can you show them your cakes?" Like he would. It was really cool. And I remember him, my foods teacher saying, "Show me your cakes," because I told her,
like, don't talk to me like that.
I was like, okay, they're gonna be cooked.
Excuse me.
You're dirty man. No,
show me your cakes.
But it was really cool. I remember I got in the school newspaper because I got into the Springville Art Show, and at the Springville Art Show they asked if I would sell them, actually, and I said no, because
how much do you think they would
because I think I put $600. Actually, I put $600.
You're like, I don't want to sell them, but if I'm gonna sell them, I want to make $600.
That's what I was like, $600. I put a lot of work into this, which now I'd be like, that is not enough. For the amount of work I put in, that is not enough. And you can't buy that anywhere.
Right.
That's like people
But they
don't
didn't
make
sell.
That. They didn't sell, and so I was actually relieved. In fact, I remember thinking, put the highest number you could possibly think in your brain for what it's worth, so that no one will buy it. And then I was okay that they didn't buy it
Because you didn't want to sell it.
I didn't actually want to sell it, but they were like, if you wanted to sell it, how much would you put it for? Because most art students had a number for their art for sale at these art shows. So anyways, they didn't sell, but they ended up later breaking. Not both of them, but a little bit.
You just have them right here in the kitchen, don't you?
I have one of them in the kitchen, but I had two sets. I had a brown chocolate cake with
That's
a
the one you
chocolate
still have,
slice.
right?
No. I think I have the white cake with the white slice.
Okay.
It looks more like red velvet cake with like cream cheese frosting on it. That's my favorite one. I think that's the one that I did the best on.
And I've told you guys a story about the first time I met her family, and I saw the cakes right on the table. We were all in the room together, and I saw the cakes sitting right on the coffee table in the middle of the room.
They were just on display because they looked cool.
On display because it looked cool, right? But here I am thinking for hours, I'm like, man, that cake's going to get hard. Why aren't they offering me any of that cake? Like, they've got it out.
It's going to get hard.
It's cut out. It's on a plate. Obviously, they're planning on eating this soon. Why have they not started eating it? I'm getting hungry. They got it. We were there for a couple hours.
And he loves cake, too. He loves cake.
I think I actually said that, and everybody laughed at me.
Well, eventually, after you had been talking for hours.
You weren't even there.
I wasn't there, but you said after you'd been talking for hours, you were like,
are we going to eat that cake?
Eat that cake? And they were like, no!
I'm gonna go get the cake. I'm gonna go get the cake.
Okay.
So you guys can see it.
And I also won another award once I got to in high school with the same cakes. Like those cakes won a lot of awards, and I got $100. I won the top prize. Won $100 from that contest, and it was like just at another art building, another gallery place that they put it in. And my art teacher was always like suggesting to put it in these contests because it was gonna win. He kept saying that. It was so nice of him. Oh wait, we do have a chocolate. Do we not have the other one?
Cake, anyone?
Cake, anyone? It's got little chips in it, so you can totally see that it's fake. It's all dusty too. So if you're watching on YouTube, you will be able to see my cake that I built in high school. Made it exactly like, I guess if you flip it upside down, it still has the paper in it. What does the paper say?
Oh, you should read it.
Okay, I'll read the paper on the inside. It says, 2008 Utah High School Art Show entry. North Sanpete High School, Rebecca Lee. And it has my address and my phone number. Don't break that! Oh my goodness.
I would never break this.
Oh, I titled it, Have Your Cake and Eat It Too. But apparently that was a joke because you can't eat this! But it looks real. It's really dusty right now.
But doesn't this look so real? Like if you saw this at someone's house and it's like sitting there on display, it's a little bit dusty, I admit. But when it was new, it was like, it just looks so good.
Yep.
I want to take a bite right now.
And this is the cake, and it's big. Like here's my hand on it.
It's a full-size cake.
That's huge. Use this as the thumbnail for this video.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Cool.
But when I made that, everybody wanted to see it. Everybody wanted to see me making it. And when it was finally done, it was like a big deal, and everybody was like, I want to see it. I want to see it.
It is a big deal. That's really cool.
And then it got put in I think 3 different art shows. And I won. I was telling them while you were gone that I won. So not the Springville Art Show, not the high school art show. I think this wasn't made until after the high school art show, but the art show that was in Ephraim actually like the last thing my senior year, I think, was when I put it in and I won first place and I got $100. And I was so happy.
Good job.
And I was really close with all of these other schools, actually. And the other guy that put it in, that was right below me, he had made all these tiny sculptures of real people. And they looked real and they were amazing. And he was like in the running with me, and it was between me and him, and he got second place.
Oh, good job, Becca.
I'm so happy about it. I'm so proud.
You should be. That's really cool.
But really, and then I actually made a 3-tier wedding cake. That's in the kitchen right now too.
We talked about that in the earlier episodes.
We?
Yeah, because that was when we were engaged.
We have that one too, if you want to say it.
That was
cool.
During our engagement. You built that.
I made it for our wedding, so we could have a wedding cake that's fake and a wedding cake that was real.
But we still have it to this day.
Yeah, we do.
It's a fun memory to be able to have that wedding cake.
It's really cool.
Well, other than that, I think that was kind of like
those are your passions and my passions growing up. What I really cared about.
I mentioned that I spent a summer in Oregon learning beekeeping from my grandpa. Actually, from the time I was like maybe 15 all the way until I was like 18 years old, or as an adult. So like 3 or 4 years. Every summer I would go to Oregon for about 2 months. And my grandpa would pay my ticket so I could get there. And then during the course of the summer, I would work for him and pay off my ticket. So like if the ticket was $300, then I would work for him at a rate, $8 an hour or $5 an hour, whatever. And I would work as many hours as I needed to pay for the ticket. And then other than that, I got to stay and play, because all my cousins on my mom's side of the family are all in Oregon. They all live in Corvallis, or they're in that area. At least they did. And I would go to Oregon every summer, and I would work and I'd play and just make fun memories with cousins. And it was always quite the adventure, especially because I was away from a home. I was away from my siblings. I was away from my mom and dad. And it was like a little bit of like freedom. And it was really cool.
It's so funny because both of us come from families with 9 kids. And like in his family, the older kids all really wanted to get out of the house and get going with their life. And same with my family. It was like
whatever.
The older kids
are still living at home with your mom and dad.
Oh, but at that time, like they were ready to get out of the house and get their driver's license, move on with life.
Right.
And now we're just so cool. They want to live with us.
We are pretty cool.
Just kidding.
Well, it was fun because I would go to Oregon for the summer, and I would like have fun with my cousins, and I'd have a really good time, and like I would grow as a person, and I'd have a little bit more of like a better attitude about things. And every time I would come back to Florida, I would want to bring, like, I would come back to Florida and be like, man, I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be like bored. I don't want to be upset. Like I want to take all the fun of Oregon and bring it back with me.
Yeah.
And keep that feeling alive all year long.
Mm-hmm.
And so it helped kind of make the culture at home a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
A little bit more inclusive, so that
one day I want to go back to Florida and I want to get a vacation home. That's like a dream board thing. Boop, right? I'm going to put that on my wall.
Let's do it.
And then we can go there and live for 2 months out of the year, the best 2 months of temperature, and like go to the beach and go to Disney World a lot, and then come home.
That'd be cool.
I want to do that at least a month at a time, like even if it's not 2 months.
Cool. Well, hey, I think that's it for today's episode of Beach Theory, learning about our teenage passions for things that we love and that we still love even to this day. That was like the birth of our realization that we love these things.
Yeah.
With art or beekeeping, whatever. So
we ought to go there and we ought to get a house that is in your old ward. Maybe. That'd be cool.
I don't know where that came from. That has nothing to do with the conversation.
Because I'm dreaming now. You got me dreaming about like, okay, this is why I started thinking about that, because you were talking about keeping like a good mindset that you didn't have while you were there. Well, when we were there, I didn't have a good mindset either.
Right.
And I guess in my brain, I want closure. from that time in my life not being set right.
You feel like your Florida experience was tainted,
Yeah.
and you want to go back and
Make it
Bring-
right.
bring your
What I've
current
learned now
paradigm and perspective.
to there.
Yeah,
And like I just feel like it would be healing and it would be better.
I agree. I think it absolutely would be.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Anyways, let's do it.
Okay, high five. All right. We love you guys. Thanks so much for tuning to Beach Theory. We'll see you guys next week. Next week, I want to talk about something else.
Dating?
Should we talk about dating?
Is that what you were looking at me weird for?
Let's talk about dating as teenagers
Okay, let's do
before
it.
we met each other.
Woo! All right.
So stay tuned. It's coming up next week. It's going to be a good one.
All
Bye,
right.
guys. See ya.
Bye.